My name is Daniel Marsh, and I work the night shift at the Cedar Hollow gas station off Route 33 in West Virginia. If you've ever driven through that part of the state, you know how isolated it gets. Miles and miles of nothing but black trees, fog, and winding roads that seem to lead nowhere. The gas station sat at the bottom of a hill, surrounded by dense woods on three sides. The only light for miles was the buzzing fluorescent glow of our canopy lights over the pumps. I took the job because it paid decent, and I was a college dropout with no better options. My shift ran from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. Most nights, I'd see maybe 5 or 6 customers total. Truckers, mostly. Sometimes a lost tourist. The rest of the time, I sat behind the counter reading paperback novels or watching videos on my phone. It was boring. Painfully boring until it wasn't. Nightingale. It started on a Tuesday night in late October. Around 2:15 a.m., the security camera feed on my monitor flickered, just for a second. I glanced up and noticed something on camera. The one that faces the tree line behind the building near the dumpsters. There was a shape standing just beyond the edge of the light. It was tall. It was tall. Unnaturally tall. I squinted at the grainy black and white image and tried to make sense of what I was seeing. It looked like a person standing perfectly still, but the proportions were wrong. The arms were too long. The head seemed tilted at an angle that would be uncomfortable for any normal human being. I watched for maybe 30 seconds. It didn't move, not even slightly. I figured it was a trick of the light, maybe a weird shadow from a branch or a bag caught on something. I went back to my book. About 20 minutes later, I heard a knock on the glass front door. I looked up. Nobody was there. The parking lot was completely empty. No cars at the pumps. No headlights on the road. I stood up and walked to the door, pressing my face against the glass and looking left and right. Nothing. Just the hum of the lights and the chirping of crickets. I returned to the counter and glanced at the monitor again. Camera 3. The figure was closer now. It had moved from the tree line to about 15 feet behind the building. I could see it more clearly now. It was definitely humanoid, but it was wearing something dark, like a long coat or a cloak. Its face was obscured, and it was still standing perfectly. Impossibly still. My heart began to beat faster. I grabbed the store phone and called my manager. Rick. No answer. I called again. Voicemail. I left a message telling him something weird was going on and that I might need to close early. At 3 a.m., the knocking came again. This time, it wasn't at the front door. It was at the back door, the steel utility door in the stockroom that led out to the dumpster area. 3 slow, deliberate knocks. Bang, bang, bang. Then, silence. I did not go to that door. I stood behind the counter, staring at the monitor. Camera 3 now showed nothing. The figure was gone. But it had been standing in the direction of that back door. I checked every camera. The parking lot empty. The pumps empty. The side of the building empty. Then camera 1, the one Ahmed at the front entrance, showed something that made my blood freeze. There were handprints on the glass front door. From the outside, but they were smeared downward, like someone or something had pressed both hands against the glass and slowly dragged them down. The prints were dark, not dirt. Something darker. I didn't leave the counter for the rest of the night. I sat there with a box cutter in my hand and every light in the building turned on. At 7:02 a.m., my coworker Shella arrived for the morning shift. I told her everything. She thought I was messing with her until she saw the handprints on the glass. She stopped, laughing. I checked the security footage later that day with Rick. The cameras had recorded everything. The figure at the tree line, its movement closer to the building, and then something the live feed hadn't shown me in real time. At 3:07 a.m., 2 minutes after the knocking, camera 231 on the side of the building caught the figure walking along the wall toward the front. It moved in a way that I can only describe as wrong. Its legs moved, but they bent in directions legs aren't supposed to bend. Like a marionette, being controlled by someone who didn't quite understand how human bodies work. It reached the front door. It pressed its hands against the glass, and then it turned its head slowly and looked directly into the camera. The face was pale, featureless. No eyes, no nose, just a mouth. And the mouth was open. Rick deleted the footage. He told me never to talk about it. He said the last guy who worked nights had seen the same thing and had quit without notice. He said the guy before that one had also quit. He told me that whatever it was, it had never come inside. It just watches. He said it just knocks. I quit the next day. But here's the thing that still haunts me, the thing that keeps me up at night and makes me leave every light on in my apartment. 2 weeks after I quit, I was lying in bed in my apartment in Elkins, 40 miles from that gas station. It was around 2:30 a.m. and I heard it, 3 slow knocks on my bedroom window. Bang, bang, bang. I live on the 2nd floor. I never looked. I pulled the covers over my head like a child and I didn't move until morning. When I checked the window in the daylight, there was nothing there. No marks, no prints, nothing. But sometimes, late at night, when the apartment is colored, I hear something outside that window. Not knocking, just breathing. Slow, wet breathing. Like something standing just on the other side of the glass, waiting for me to look. I have never looked, and I never will. My name is Jenna Whitford, and what happened to me and my friends in the winter of 2019 in Northern Ontario is something none of us talk about anymore. Not because we've forgotten, because we agreed, all 4 of us, that talking about it might make it come back. It was supposed to be a simple weekend trip. My friend Marcus had inherited a cabin from his grandfather near a tiny unincorporated community, about 3 hours north of Sudbury. There was barely a town, just a handful of old houses, a closed general store, and logging roads that disappeared into forests so thick you couldn't see the sky. Marcus, myself, our friend Tara, and her boyfriend Liam drove up on a Friday afternoon. The cabin was old, but solid. Log walls, a wood-burning stove, no internet, and barely any cell service. We thought it was charming, rustic, the kind of place you go to disconnect. We unloaded our bags, got the stove going, and settled in for a night of board games and cheap wine. The first night was fine. Normal. We stayed up until about 1 a.m., then went to bed. Marcus and I took the 2 small bedrooms. Tara and Liam slept on a pull-out couch in the living room. The cabin was warm, the woods were quiet, and I fell asleep quickly. I woke up at 4:11 a.m. I remember the exact time because I checked my phone. Something had woken me, but I couldn't figure out what. I lay in the dark, listening. Wind in the trees, the creak of the cabin settling, and then I heard it. Footsteps. On the roof. Not an animal, not the skittering of a squirrel or raccoon. These were deliberate, heavy footsteps, like a person walking slowly across the roof. Step. 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 They moved from one end to the other, paused, and then moved back. I sat up in bed and held my breath. The footsteps stopped directly above me, and then there was a scratching sound, like fingernails on wood, slow and deliberate, dragging across the roof planks directly over my head. I got up and went to the living room. Tara was sitting upright on the pull-out couch. She looked at me with wide eyes and whispered, "You hear it too?" Liam was still asleep. Marcus came out of his room a moment later. He'd heard it as well. We stood in the living room in the dark, listening. The scratching had stopped. The footsteps had stopped. Everything was silent. Marcus grabbed a flashlight and said he was going outside to check. Tara begged him not to. I didn't say anything because part of me wanted to know what was up. There, he put on his boots and coat, opened the front door, and stepped out into the snow. Tara and I watched from the window. He walked out about 30 feet from the cabin and turned around, shining the flashlight up at the roof. He stood there for a long time. Then he came back inside. His face was white. "There's nothing on the roof," he said, "but there are footprints in the snow. On the ground, all around the cabin. Bare footprints, and it's -20 out there. None have slept for the rest of the night. In the morning, we checked outside. Marcus was right. There were footprints. Human-looking footprints with visible toes. in the snow all around the cabin. They circled the building over and over, creating a worn path. And they didn't lead anywhere. They didn't come from the woods, and they didn't go back to the woods. They just circled. Liam, who had slept through everything, thought we were pranking him until he saw the tracks himself. He got quiet after that. We decided to stay one more night. I don't know why. Maybe we were too proud to admit we were scared. Maybe we thought there was a rational explanation. Whatever the reason, it was a mistake. The second night, we all stayed in the living room together. Nobody wanted to be alone. We kept the fire going and left a lantern on. Around 3 a.m., Tara shook me awake. I had dozed off in a chair. She pointed at the window, not pressed against it, set back slightly, like someone standing a foot away from the glass and leaning in. The face was pale, almost gray, and gaunt. The eyes were open, but completely black. Not dark brown, not shadowed, but black, like empty sockets filled with ink. The mouth was slightly open, and it was smiling. I couldn't scream. I couldn't move. Tara was gripping my arm so hard her nails broke the skin. We stared at the face, and the face stared back at us. Then it tilted its head, slowly, like a dog hearing a strange sound, and the smile widened. It widened past what a human mouth should be able to do. The corners of the lips stretched toward the ears, revealing dark gums and teeth that were too long and too narrow. Marcus woke up. He saw it. He threw a boot at the window, and the face pulled back into the darkness. We heard footsteps fast, running footsteps across the porch, and then up the wall of the cabin. Up the wall, onto the roof. The running footsteps crossed the roof, and then stopped. Then the scratching began again. But this time it wasn't just above one room. It was everywhere. The walls, the floor beneath us, the ceiling, like dozens of hands scratching at the wood from every direction. Liam started screaming. Tara was crying. Marcus grabbed the fireplace poker and stood in the middle of the room. I crouched behind the couch with my hands over my ears. It lasted for 6 minutes. I counted every second, then it stopped. All at once. Like someone had flipped a switch. Total silence. Not even the wind. We didn't wait for morning. We packed our bags in under 3 minutes. Got in the car and drove. The headlights cut through the darkness, and the snow-covered road stretched ahead of us like a white tunnel. Nobody spoke for the entire drive. About 40 minutes into the drive, Tara, who was sitting in the back seat, said something quietly. "It's following us." I turned around. Through the rear window, far behind us on the dark road, there was a shape. Running. On all fours. Keeping pace with the car. Marcus was doing 80 kilometers per hour on a snow-covered logging road, and this thing was keeping pace. Marcus pressed the gas. The car Liam was praying under his breath. I watched the shape in the mirror until we hit the main highway and merged with the sparse early morning traffic. It was gone. We never went back. Marcus eventually sold the property to a logging company. He never told them what happened. I've looked online for anything about that area, any local legends, any reports. I found almost nothing. Just one post on an old Canadian outdoors forum from 2007. A hunter describing bare footprints circling his campsite in northern Ontario. His post ended with one line that I will never forget. Whatever it was, it walked around my tent all night, and when the sun came up, the footprints led into the lake. It's February. The lake is frozen. There was no hole in the ice. My name's Oliver Baines, and I used to work for Transport for London as a station attendant at one of the older underground stations in central London. I'm not going to name the exact station because I signed paperwork when I left and I don't want legal trouble. But if you ride the tube regularly, you've probably passed through it. And if you've ever felt a sudden chill on a particular platform, the kind that hits your chest and makes you want to leave immediately, then you've probably felt what I'm about to describe. I started working there in 2017. The station is old. Victorian era. Old. The tunnels are narrow. The tiling is original in some sections. And there are parts of the station that are closed off to the public and have been for decades. Sealed corridors, bricked up passageways, rooms that don't appear on any modern schematic. Every old tube station has them. Most of them are harmless. Old storage areas, abandoned platforms from line restructures, wartime shelters. But this station had something else. The other attendants told me about it during my first week. They called her the woman on platform 9. They said she appeared late at night, always after the last train, always on the same platform, always in the same spot, near the far end, where the tunnel curves into darkness. I laughed it off. Every tube station has ghost stories. It's part of the culture. The London Underground is one of the oldest metro systems in the world, and hundreds of people have died in those tunnels. Of course, there are stories, but the other attendants weren't laughing. A man named Gerald, who had worked at the station for over 20 years, pulled me aside one evening and told me something that stuck with me. If you're doing final checks on that platform after close, he said, and you see a woman standing at the far end, do not speak to her. Do not approach her. Turn around and walk away. Tell the control room the platform is clear and go home. I asked him what would happen if I approached her. He just shook his head and said, Paul approached her. Paul doesn't work here anymore. Paul doesn't work anywhere anymore. I didn't know who Paul was. I asked around. Nobody wanted to talk about him. I found out later from an outside friend who worked in TfL admin that a station attendant named Paul Dorsey had suffered a severe mental breakdown in 2014. He was found sitting on the platform at 3 a.m., 2 hours after the station had closed, staring at the tunnel wall and muttering the same phrase over and over. He was unresponsive. He was taken to hospital and eventually committed to a psychiatric facility. As far as I know, he never recovered. For the first few months, I didn't see anything unusual. My shifts rotated, and I wasn't always on closing duty. But in March 2018, I pulled a late shift and was tasked with doing the final walkthrough of the platforms before lockup. I made my way down to the platform. It was empty. The lights were on their low nighttime setting, casting everything in a dim yellowish haze. The electronic departure boards were blank. The air was still and cold, carrying the familiar metallic smell of the underground. I walked the length of the platform, checking for stragglers. It's not uncommon for a drunk or a rough sleeper to hide and try to stay the night. As I neared the far end, where the platform narrows and the tunnel mouth opens into blackness, I felt it. The chill that Gerald had described, it hit my chest like stepping into a freezer. My breath clouded in front of me, despite the station not being that cold. Primera stopped. I looked down the platform, and she was there. She was standing about 20 feet ahead of me, right at the edge of the platform, facing the tunnel. She was wearing a dark dress, old-fashioned, long, with a high collar. Her hair was dark and pinned up. She was perfectly still. My first instinct was professional. Excuse me, the station is closed. You need to. I stopped myself. Gerald's words flashed through my mind. Do not speak to her. Do not approach her. I stood frozen. She hadn't moved, hadn't reacted to my voice. She just stood there, facing the tunnel, as if waiting for a train that would never come. Then she turned her head, not her body, just her head. It rotated slowly toward me, and I saw her face. It was pale, not white, but gray, like old newspaper. Her eyes were open and they were looking at me. But they weren't right. They were too large, too dark, and they didn't blink. Her mouth moved. She was saying something. No sound came out, but I could read the shapes her lips were making. The same phrase, over and over. Come here. Come here. Come here. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to run, but I couldn't move. My legs felt like they were filled with concrete. My hands were shaking. The cold was getting worse. I could feel it seeping through my uniform, through my skin, into my bones. She took a step toward me. Then another. Her movement was fluid, but unnatural, like a video playing at slightly the wrong speed. Too smooth. No bounce in her step, like she was gliding on rails. That broke the spell. I turned and ran. I ran down the platform, up the stairs through the corridors, and into the staff office. I slammed the door behind me and collapsed into a chair. My hands were blue. Not from cold, they were actually tinged blue, as if the blood had drained from them. I told Gerald the next day. It just nodded. "Now you know," he said. "I saw her 3 more times over the following year. Always the same. Always at the far end of the platform. Always after the last train. Always mouthing those words. Each time, I followed Gerald's advice. I turned around and walked away. I reported the platform as clear. But the last time, the time that made me quit, was different. It was November 2018. I was doing my walkthrough. I reached the platform and felt the chill immediately. I looked toward the far end. She was there. Same dress. Same position. Facing the tunnel. I started to turn away, but then I noticed something that made my stomach drop. She wasn't at the far end of the platform. She was in the middle. She was closer than she had ever been before. I turned to leave, and she was at the top of the stairs, standing right there, at the exit, blocking my way, 20 feet in front of me. She had moved instantaneously, impossibly, from the middle of the platform to the top of the stairs in the time it took me to turn around. Her face was clearer now. I could see details I wished I couldn't. Her skin wasn't just gray, it was textured, rough, like stone. Her eyes weren't just dark, they were hollow. Empty spaces where eyes should be, but deep, deeper than a skull should allow. Like looking into 2 tiny tunnels. It went back and back and back forever, and her mouth was open, wide open, wider than before, and each time I could hear her. Not with my ears inside my head, a whisper that rattled around my skull like a marble in a jar. "You looked, you looked, you looked. You always look," I screamed. I don't remember what happened next with perfect clarity. I know I ran past her, or through her. Because there was a moment of absolute cold. The worst cold I have ever felt. Like being submerged in ice water. And then I was through, and I was running up the stairs and through the gate and out into the London night. I called in sick the next day. And the day after, and then I submitted my resignation. My manager called me. He didn't ask why. He just said, "I understand. You're not the first. I still ride the tube sometimes. I have to. It's London, but I never take the last train. And I never, ever look toward the dark end of the platform. Because I know she's there. She's always there. Standing at the edge where the light ends and the tunnel begins, mouthing those words into the silence, waiting for someone to come close enough. And I know now what happened to Paul Dorsey. He didn't approach her. She approached him, and whatever she showed him in those deep, hollow eyes, whatever he saw when he looked into those endless, dark tunnels in her skull, it was enough to take his mind away forever. Some nights, when I'm lying in bed in my flat, I hear it. That whisper, not from outside, not from another room, from inside my own head. Quiet, patient. You looked. You always look. I'm starting to think that seeing her even once is enough. That she doesn't need you to come to her. She just needs you to see her. And once you do, some part of her stays with you. A splinter of cold in your chest. A whisper in the back of your mind. A shadow in your peripheral vision when you're standing on a platform and the train hasn't come yet and the tunnel is dark and quiet. I moved out of London last year. I live in the countryside now. No underground. No tunnels. No platforms. But last night, I woke up at 3 a.m. My bedroom was freezing. My breath was visible in the air. And from downstairs, I heard footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. Moving from one end of the house to the other. Then they stopped. And from just outside my bedroom door, I heard a whisper. "You looked?